The Force, a mysterious power in Zelda lore that dwells within all living things, has been the central topic of a few of my previous videos, and in the most recent episode of this series, I explained that the sacred flames are the pure physical manifestations of each element of the Force, and that the entirety of the Force is the ultimate power of the world given by the Golden Goddesses. Likewise, I concluded that the Triforce is not the source of ultimate power, but instead is the ultimate authority to control all Force. However, as many Zelda fans are aware, the world of light is not unrivaled, and the same goes for the Force. Well, I guess anyone with some common sense can recognize a dichotomy of good and evil. If you're new to the channel, or just haven't seen that episode of this series, where the heck have you been? I'll leave a link to that video in the description. I'm also pleased to announce that I'm joined by Nayru to piece together all of this information.
Hey guys, I'm Nayru, and I have a channel where we take a lot of deep dives into the lore of the Zelda series. I'm thrilled to be tackling this topic with you, Zeldom.
Stay tuned as we discover the secrets about what I call the dark side of the Force. My name is Andy, and welcome to Zeldom. Before we begin, I'd once again like to thank Nanoctro and Remum95 for providing their thoughts on the Force back in November, which helped inspire some ideas from the last video and even more that will be presented later on in this one. Previously we discussed how powerful gratitude and happiness can use Force to create Force Gems, embodiments of energy, and gratitude crystals. These objects are physical manifestations of Force created through what we humans consider virtues, and yes, flat out positivity. If emotions such as this can create objects through the person's own Force, shouldn't there also be a way for hate and other negative emotions to physically manifest itself? Well, I say of course. In Skyward Sword there are these collectible items known as evil crystals, which are described to be pure crystallized malice. These crystals are occasionally found after slaying monsters that serve Girahim and Demise. Demise's spirit is known to have been reincarnated into Ganondorf, who is inevitably the same consciousness as the Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild. In this game, the world is plagued with an evil energy known as Malice. It even has a similar aesthetic to the evil crystal from Skyward Sword. In complete contrast to Force Gems and Gratitude Crystals, Malice is formed by immense amounts of hatred. When Malice is touched in Breath of the Wild, Link's life is gradually drained from him until he either escapes it or dies. There's another interesting mention of Malice I think we should look into. At the Temple of Time in Breath of the Wild, King Rhoam tells Link,
"The Demon King was born into this kingdom, but his transformation into Malice created the horror you see now."
This subtle detail refers to the original King of Evil. No, not Ganon. Nope, not Ganondorf. Perfection. At the end of Skyward Sword, Demise curses Link, Zelda, and the to-be-established Kingdom of Hyrule to a cycle of hatred with no end, that there will continuously be an incarnation of his hatred to doom their descendants forever. Demise's curse is seen to be true. His hatred is reincarnated through Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time, who is lustful for power and develops a hatred for Hyrule. King Rhoam revealed that somehow Ganondorf or Ganon was able to transform himself into this being of dark matter known as Malice, most likely through his eternal hatred or power that he inherited from Demise.
Coincidentally, the concept of hatred and/or a lust for power, physically transforming someone, applies to far more beings in Zelda lore than just Ganon. The Twilight are known to be descendants of the interlopers mentioned in Twilight Princess, a people consumed by their greed who used dark magic to establish dominion over the sacred realm. It's not known whether the Twilight have different appearances than ordinary humans due to evolution in a different world or from the corruption of their ancestors, but based on Ganon's transformation in Malice, I think the latter is possible and is backed up by other instances throughout the franchise. The villain Vaati from the Minish Cap and Four Swords games was of the Picori species and apprenticed to the Picori mage Ezlo, but gradually developed a lust for power and stole a powerful cap made by Ezlo. With Vaati's new power, his body changed from the ordinary Picori appearance into a traditional Zelda villain look. Pale skin, purple cloak, evil looking eyes, and so forth. This is far from what the Picori look like, so it's safe to say that this corruption in power is responsible for transforming Vaati's body. By the end of the game, he's even able to use Zelda's Force to transform himself into a full-blown demon. So far, we've only shown that there is in fact an evil side of the Force, and that it can transform people, and in extreme cases, into actual demons. But we need to determine whether this evil force is the same entity we've been talking about, but simply used in a corrupt way, or an entirely separate entity and the antipode of the Force. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Zeldom's channel for more Zelda theories like this one.
So we've established that this dark force, or as I will start to call, the anti-force, is connected to Demise's and Ganon's malice, and could have influenced other evil characters we've observed throughout the series. The next thing we need to determine is how this is connected to demons in general. Page 98 of the Hyrule Historia states, "For all the good created by the goddesses, there also exists a great darkness. Demons, born from the source of all evil, and monsters under the influence of dark magic, sow turmoil and bring destruction in Hyrule and its parallel worlds." As I explained in the previous video, magical abilities derive from the ability to control the Force at a limited capacity. In the Zelda franchise, monsters are usually creatures led under the magical influence of demonic leaders such as Girahim, Demise, Ganon, Bellum, and you name them. Since these demons are able to use these dark magical abilities, that would mean demons have their own corrupted force, aka anti-force. We know that demons do not and cannot possess their own normal force that all other creatures and beings possess. In Skyward Sword, there was the friendly demon Betro, who desired to become human, but needed gratitude crystals, aka human force, in order to transform himself from a demon into a human. After his transformation, he mentions how his former unpleasant aura had completely faded away. The fact that he had this dark aura to him even though he was very friendly and compassionate should prove that demons innately possess the anti-force, instead of the regular force like all other creatures. So what makes the anti-force any different than the ordinary force other than just being the evil counterpart? Well, as I just showed you with Betro, anti-force cannot be converted into force because otherwise Betro's good heart would have been able to convert him without needing gratitude crystals. However, as we also discussed earlier, people's evil hearts can manipulate their force, converting it to the anti-force and themselves into demons. Bellum, the powerful demon and main antagonist in Phantom Hourglass, is a great example of this. He was a cunning, squid-like demon who was obsessed with stealing life force from both ordinary people and powerful entities with large amounts of force, such as the Ocean King and Tetra. Bellum was then able to use the stolen life force to convert it to his own anti-force to use for his dark magic, which he mainly just used to steal even more force and hence gain even more power. Hopefully, it's clear that the anti-force varies from ordinary life force in that it cannot be converted into life force. However, life force can be corrupted and turned into the anti-force, which generally is the defining point of demons and demonic possession.
Now let's tackle our final point. Since we know there exists divine relics which contain immense amounts of force, such as the Sacred Flames and Hylia's Light Force, and if the Anti-Force exists as an evil counterpart to the Life Force, shouldn't these divine relics also have an evil counterpart? Well, in fact there is. In the Oracle of Ages and Seasons, Twinrova works in unison with General Onox and Varen to light the flames of the Dark Rites. These flames are very obviously similar to the sacred flames from Skyward Sword. The flames themselves stand in a triangle identical to the pieces of the Triforce. And like the sacred flames, each of the flames of the Dark Rites corresponds to a virtue of the Triforce, but corrupted. The bottom left flame, sitting in the spot of the Triforce of Wisdom, is the flame of destruction. And this makes sense. Mindless destruction is the opposite of careful wisdom. The bottom right flame is the flame of sorrow, created through the affliction of immense sorrow onto the people of Labrina, while sitting in the spot of the Triforce of Courage. The last flame, in the top position, is the purple flame of despair, sitting in the spot of the Triforce of Power. This flame is lit when the people in all of the lands lose all hope. The ties between the Flame of Despair and the Triforce of Power are immediately observable, when considering that the general wielder of the Triforce of Power, Ganondorf, is always in a position of power, and constantly causing despair and hopelessness to the lands around him. So with the Flames of Despair understood, it makes sense to say that if the Sacred Flames are the pure manifestations of each element of the Force, Likewise, each flame of the Dark Rites would mean that the Anti-Force is an equally omnipresent and rivaling power. Varen, Onox, and Twinrova were lighting the flames of the Dark Rites for the purpose of resurrecting Ganon, and to accomplish this, they would need the blood of a sacrifice, Princess Zelda. Similar instances to the rituals of the Dark Rites can be seen throughout the series. In Skyward Sword, Girahim performs a ritual and uses evil magic to sacrifice Hylia's, aka Zelda's, light force. This was in order to successfully resurrect Demise. In Spirit Tracks, Zelda was the only suitable sacrifice to resurrect the demon Malice due to her possession of the light force.
Okay, so why does all of this matter? Well, let me try to answer that question with this question. Why would powerful demons such as Demise, Ganon, and Malice need to consume the light force in unison with a ritual led by black magic to be resurrected? Because Demise and his reincarnations owned their own rivaling power to Hylia's light force. It just makes sense and seems to go along almost perfectly with everything we've discussed in this video, and in the series up to this point. After losing his source of power, Demise would either need to reincarnate into another being or steal the force from his own rivaling entity, Hylia, and her life force, to be resurrected without unnatural reincarnation. In addition to that, he would need some external use of dark magic to convert the light force into his own dark force. Finally, I'm sure some are asking, what does this make of the Triforce? Does the Triforce control both Life Force and the Anti-Force, or would there need to be another Triforce to control the Anti-Force, such as Lorule's Triforce? As far as theories go, it could really go either way. We would have to go into a whole separate theory to determine if Demise is from Lorule and if the Lorule Triforce gives sorrow, destruction, and despair. There are theories out there that use the Upside Down Triforce on Demise's sword, as well as a few other details, but since I don't have my own theory on that yet, and I see some potential issues there, I'll leave it up to all of you to determine for yourself. Without the context of Demise being from Lorule, I'm going to conclude that the Triforce of Hyrule grants ultimate control of both the Anti-Force and Life Force, uniting this perfect economy. Thank you to Nayru for helping me out with this video.
And thank you for inviting me to take part, Zeldom. It was great.
Go check out his channel, as Nayru has far more content than I do and he produces videos about Hyrule facts rather than theories. What are your thoughts on the Anti-Force? Do you think Demise and his Dark Force came from Lorule, or does each dimension have their own unique powers? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and stay nerdy y'all.